Hey everybody, it's Brad Linder back with another one tonight. Going to be doing Freddy Krueger from the Nightmare on Elm Street series by New Line Cinema. And just going to share this over with the page and the channel really quick, and then we're going to get started. And I'm going to be using multimedia tonight. It's going to be very interesting to see how that goes. So if you're checking it out, cool, I appreciate it. If not, that's okay too. Hey Johnny, glad you made it, man. Trying to do this a little earlier than normal tonight because I wanted to make sure I knock it out, but not do it in the witching hour with this particular character. Gonna start off with some basic artist loft coloring here. Gonna be coloring in this red because I want it to be rather vibrant, and I want it to have that fabric look, which this tends to have a great feel for that texturing. And the way to do it is to do short strokes like I'm doing here, just in sections, and brush it along, and it gives just enough of a texture barrier to where it'll change up in the moisture level and whatnot and really make it sing when it dries, and it almost looks like you can reach out and touch a felt fabric kind of thing when you do that overlay method, because it makes it look, for lack of a better term, fuzzy, like that. So you don't have to worry about all that texturing. You can do that with the ink, with the natural drying layers of the ink. So most people want markers to dry smooth, and if you do longer saturated strokes, you can get that. But in this technique, I'm getting these brush strokes in to get that kind of transparent in-place look, so it looks like it's got fabric to it. And as it dries, it'll tend to look that way more and more. But yeah, it's really neat the way that these work. As you can see, the little lines going through, and it's picking up a little bit of graphite left in it and things like that, and I want it to in this particular case. So because I want it to look a little grittier, so like a different texture. So I'm going to rotate my tip here though, because I'm starting to get it a little bit. The more you use it, the more it'll saturate and the more it'll start to flex, and it'll drag, and it won't hold as such a fine tip if you don't rotate it. So you have to rotate them, and that's with these Artist Loft and with Copics both. Even though they're felt tips and they tend to wear out anyway eventually, you want those Copics to last for a while because they're expensive to replace. And these Artist Loft unfortunately are disposable, but that works in your favor too, because they're actually more affordable price-wise, but you get what you pay for, and Copics are freaking awesome. I don't get any money for saying that. I'm just saying it because of the fact that I like the daggum things. I really do. I have a couple of them here that I'm going to be using on this piece, matter of fact. But there we go. The traditional red Freddy sweater. Hey, Todd, Aaron. Is it Tom Miller too? Yeah. Hey, Tom. Okay, cool. Excuse me. Instead of going gray with this, the hat, I'm going to go with a dirty maroon type of color because I want it to look that way. So we're going to go right here. And there's some light shading over here. And then there's the white barrier that goes around him, and I don't want to color that just yet. So I'm going to leave that open for the moment as long as possible because I plan to do something else with that. So to really make it pop. Let's see. We've got the hat going on, and then we're going to do the claw next, and then I'll do finally the face because it's got the most detail in it, and it's got like 4 or 5 pencils that I've got to use on it to make that face happen. I mean, I could do it with markers, but it just doesn't have the same gritty appeal to it that it would otherwise. So I'm going to use those instead. There we go. Cool deal. Excuse me. I'm going to color the metal first. Just going to base coat this because these are dull die cast, and they're supposed to be that way. Now, I was going to do the finger ridges in here, but I didn't. I went ahead and went with the later version, which caps off the fingers with full gloves, the full metal fingers, and the full gloves underneath, the full wraparound caps. So I wanted to go that route just for convenience and expediency when I did this, and that's the reason I did that. Because in the last one, they had that new glove that had the full metal finger sections on it instead of the underlaying leather. Because his original gloves in part 1, 2, and I believe it was 1, 2, and 3, and then the new glove came in 4. I might be mistaken on that, but I'll have to pull my DVDs out and watch them again and check that out a little bit. But originally, this glove didn't come in until later when they had the under wraps, and then he just had the leather palm, and that was it. So now he's got the leather palm according to this one. Okay, that's the way we're going with it. We're going to leather palm and the thumb, and then the burned hand, and then the face. And I know a lot of the traditionalists will be freaking out because I didn't go with the leather glove with fingers underneath. But sorry about that, guys. I just decided to do it this way for convenience of doing it. But anyway, going to color this out with a little shading under here to give that top side the vibrance and look of being solid. And you know, back in the 90s, I got a little trivia for you. You know, back in the 90s, New Line was talking about doing a Freddy cartoon series like they did Beetlejuice because they G-rated it, you know. Could you imagine them doing a Freddy cartoon as a full-fledged series? I mean, that would just be insane beyond belief. My cousin Mike would really love that because he's really into animation and really into horror flicks, and I think he would dig that. But I don't think it'd be my cup of tea personally, but it'd be cool to see if they could pull it off without it being gnarly and, you know, R-rated or more so. I think that'd be an interesting contrast. But nobody thought they'd pull off, you know, everyone thought that they were going to blow up when they tried to do, not necessarily New Line, but the Ghostbusters animated series. Everybody thought that they were going to ruin that series, that franchise with that. And it turned out to be one of the best cartoons in history. So, Freddy has blue eyes. That's creepy. I'm going to grab my brown. Grab the bag. Tricks over here. Because I have a light brown that I really want to use on this. For this leather look. I really want to knock that out with that tanned hide look for the leather. Most people like to use the burgundy or brandy style, but you know that's the color they like to go with because it shows up better. You know, that candy apple red or that burgundy or maroon leather shows up. You know, those three colors particularly show up really well on screen, and that's why people like to use them a lot. Hey Jim, glad you made it, man. But for me personally, I like to use this lighter, almost a flesh tan, and then use a darker brown for this kind of thing, because when it dries, it has a really cool aesthetic to it. So I like to make that work. But anyway, going in with a light tan here with a brown shading, and I'm gonna leave a little highlight here and there. But for the most part, I'm just going to knock this out. Very cool. All right. Now, I will get into some of the face stuff and make this work here. And I know this doesn't look too burned or messed up in the hand. I'm just going to kind of make it like a harsh callus going on, and make a few different gradations of the flesh color. And then I'm going to walk a little bit of gray inside of here for the shadow, just kind of smudging it in a little so it'll look kind of off or inset, not scarred up like his face, because his face is 3 different shades of bright pink. Because when you get scarring this badly, it tends to change color and get really bright. And then there are darker elements that come in, you know, like this patch right here on his cheek. This isn't traditional Freddy mask patterns, and I wish I would have gone more of that route when I did it later. But, you know, while I was inking it, I was thinking about that. But now I can patchwork this just a little bit and try to get some of these darker tones in here first, and then come back and fill it. Because the way they did his makeup, it was almost like camouflage, you know, because it was practical prosthetics at the time, and it was always niche work, because they had to do each individual mask piece separate and then build it back together on his face every day. And Robert Ingram, Ingram, thank you. Hello, Robert England. Oh, I almost choked on my throat drop there. We almost had a death on Facebook. That would have sucked. YouTube would have thought it was funny. But anyway, for the third or fourth time I tried to say that there, Robert England always talks about having to put in, you know, all the hours for the makeup for doing Freddy. He loved it, but he doesn't miss the chair at all. So anyway, long way about it there apparently. Sorry about that. But anyway, death by throat drop, that would suck. So we're cutting in these heavy pink spots, and now I'm going to go with a little bit lighter one to show some of this scarring, because like I said, this stuff is really cool the way it just shows up, and boom, you're there, and you have that nasty, crusty, burnt look really easily with this one. Kind of trying to hit the high points. And if a little white's peeking through on this one, it's really good to have that, because the highest points of the scarring will turn white because they have no pigment to them, because they're just scars. And that's why people that get burned in a lot of cases have a really, really pale look, or even a white kind of an albino scarred look. And the reason it looks caked and callous like that is because that's scar tissue, and scar tissue has no pigment. It has very little pigment to it. Especially on the face. Now, once in a while, you get it to, you know, a scar will go dark on you, and it's because it's had blood pool up underneath it, and it'll turn dark. But in most cases, though, it is actually white or very, very pale pink, depending on how it was treated and how it was put together. Now I'm just going to put in a third pink here. And what I'm doing with this one is I'm kind of caking in different spots to give it a little more pigment. I'm going to keep this very subtle in here and just go from like place to place to place. Keep it very simple, very clean, very direct. And I'm not doing out the whole spot that I'm touching. I'm just going over a couple of pieces here and there to kind of give it that overall look. And now, to make this all come together, what I'm going to do is I'm going to buffer in a little bit of this gray right over the top to give it that old school, tainted, nasty, leathery look that this guy's known for in the movies. And just by washing it with that gray, it gives it that typical Freddy look. So we have that going on. Now we want bright pink on the tongue. So, sorry, I looked away to check my monitor to make sure you guys were still in camera there. And I don't want that tongue to be too bright, so I'm going to dull it down too, because that's part of it. Is you dulling him out makes him look nasty and dead. You know, gives him that zombie look that everybody wants. So that's the whole point. Here we go. Cool deal. Now I'm going to give him, you know what? I'm going to take over these teeth here. I'm going to give him a little bit of a gray edge to the teeth. And the reason I'm doing that is so that they'll look like his nasty, gnarly zombie teeth, you know. And then, see if it's handy. Yeah, there it is. If I can grab it. Okay. Sorry about that. I couldn't grab it out of the tray. I'm going to put the light, super light gray on one side of these, like this, just to make them pop off just a little bit so they have a little definition to them. And now I'm going to take this bright green, because I blacked out the stripes on his sweater, which are normally green. I'm going to put in this dark, super, super dark forest green all the way around him. And that will make him pop out. Typical dark, nasty, brooding Freddy. And I know I've got a funny expression on his face in this case, because I've got him doing the whole, you know, tongue to the mouth, blah, blah, blah thing. You know, it was my daughter's idea, because of the fact that when I was drawing this, she goes, ooh, that guy's too scary. And she likes horror movies, but she doesn't get to watch Freddy. It's not appropriate, you know, she's not old enough yet. She's only 12. But yeah, it's just one of those things, man. She thinks he's gross and thinks he's cool, and said, you know, let's make him make a funny face. He never makes funny faces. Let's make him make a funny face. So I did that, and there you go. So he's kind of blowing a raspberry at people. I thought that was a nice little twist that we don't normally get from that character. But Robert Englund is a trip anyway. And I think as the character of Freddy, if he improv'd it and thought about it, he definitely would do that, because he's just crazy like that. But anyway, I think we've got that one done. The next couple of days, I know this one went on a little quick, but the next few days we have the Battletoads. I've almost got them all inked. I was inking them because they go in the set right before Freddy does. So here are the 3 Battletoads. They're almost inked. I've got one more to do. And then we're going to have some more stuff coming out here very shortly. But I'm going to be doing a couple more of these for the early part of the week. And got some news with the websites and things coming up. And I will talk to you guys later. As always, thanks for hanging out with me. I love you guys for being fans and friends and YouTube watchers and Facebook livers and all that great stuff. Thank you so much for hanging out and giving me all the support and watching these things as I do them and digging on my artwork. Also, we only have this little rock for a little short time in this crazy roller coaster we call life. Be sure to leave it better than you found it for the next generation. Talk to you later, guys.